So I turn my podcast on, turn the volume up, push play to hear what these dudes will say. 'Cause for romance now I know that there are only hope.
Welcome back to another episode of A Talk to Remember. I'm one of the hosts, probably the one you're here for, Mikey Blag. And we also have all the way from Conway, Arkansas, my friend, Mr. Bradley Toon. Bradley, how are you?
Good evening, Mikey. It's been a couple weeks. Excited to be back on this and talk about an interesting movie.
Speaking of Conway, Arkansas, we also have Mr. Nathan McDivitt.
I wore this for you all.
Tighten up.
Yeah.
Tighten up, baby. Who's that on yours, Mikey? Who's on your shirt?
That's a little bit of everything Cleveland, man.
Let's go Browns, baby.
Ooh, nice.
That's right. All right, we also have Taylor doing sound. Taylor, we don't have any time for you right now. I got to move over to Brandon. Brandon, we have Brandon Taylor here in Nashville. Brandon, I want to just drop something on you real quick.
Drop it.
So we've done a couple episodes. We record like 2 or 3 ahead, and this week we put out Ghost. Bradley, Nathan, I don't even know if you guys know about this, but I know Brandon doesn't know about this, and I've held off on telling him till once we hit record. But you know how every time we put one out, we say 3 reasons you should listen. And one of the reasons this week was because Brandon taught us all how to kiss. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. He was going through the best ways to kiss.
I'm just trying to serve humanity.
And so we had a fan out there that said, and I love this, he said, but isn't that like asking a little leaguer how to hit a baseball? So, Brandon, I just wanted to know what you would think to a comment like that.
Wait, could you repeat that one more time? Hold, I am taken aback.
He said, when you taught us how to kiss, he said, isn't that like asking a little leaguer how to hit a baseball? And I'm just curious, like, is that what it's like, Brandon?
Okay, I'm going to come clean. Look, am I the Brad Pitt of locking lips? Maybe or maybe not. Probably maybe not.
No.
You know, I would say I'm more of the underdog of the smoocheroo, if you will. However,
You're the Dom Hill. What's it? Dom with the what's the guy? Domhnall Gleeson.
From About Time.
Thank you, Nathan. I think that's a compliment because I don't know who that.
I meant it as a compliment.
I receive it. But there is a little leaguer that comes to mind that was quite the underdog. He actually was in The Sandlot. Old Squints Felidorus. No one thought anything of him. And he loved a woman named Wendy Peppercorn. And she was quite a looker. Excuse my language, Carrie. But
Quite a looker? Like it's...
Is
that inappropriate?
Red lipstick.
That was close to
red
objectification
swimsuit and all.
right there.
And in that movie, old Squints Felidorus, who is a little leaguer in his own right, fakes his own drowning to put the biggest smooch on Wendy Peppercorn, and that worked out for him because he got married to her and had 9 kids. Bada bing, bada boom.
I meant this is an insult. How you pulled that out of your butt in 10 seconds. That is a clap-worthy moment. So, well done, my
Pulling
friend.
rabbits out of hats, man.
You know what I thought you were going to go with, Brandon?
What?
Rookie
I thought you were
year.
going to go with, hey, that go.
That's incredible.
I
Is
thought
that a gas can right behind you on your left shoulder?
Oh, yeah. You never know when you'll need it.
Okay.
Also, this week, we have our friend. She's been here almost every time we've talked about Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Miss Carrie Dodson.
Hey, you guys. Glad to be back.
You could be like the number one fan, the number one contender in her fan club.
I
As far as I know.
love Julia so much. And I'm just so excited to talk about another Julia classic with y'all tonight.
We'll see how that goes.
I got a lot to say about Julia, too. All right, well, we should probably get right into this movie. This movie is called My Best Friend's Wedding, also known as Runaway Bridesmaid, because it felt very similar to the other movie we watched, except for not as good. Taylor, do you have the poster ready?
No.
Obviously he doesn't. So does anybody else, before we get into this, just have anything to say since Taylor dropped the ball? This is why we don't let him talk at the beginning, folks, because if you give him any responsibility at all, he blows it. He blows it in the playoffs.
Taylor's really tall, so he's got that going for him.
He is a tall guy.
I bet Carrie has some just nuggets of wisdom about My Best Friend's Wedding for us.
That's true.
Some preview nuggets.
Well, okay, so I'm so excited. I love this movie. Like, I have almost the whole thing memorized. Like, as I was going through it, I literally looked at my roommate and was like, I didn't realize how many lines I have memorized. I've seen this probably like 20 times, no lie.
Oh.
And so it's a favorite of mine. So I'm really excited. I've heard some murmurs that y'all might have loved it, but might not have loved it, but I'm ready.
Carrie,
go
ahead.
Go ahead, Mikey. Go ahead.
Out of the 3 Julia Roberts movies you've done with us now, where would this one rank? Like 1, 2, 3?
This one, okay, so like Runaway Bride's my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
Notting Hill's number 2. So this one might be, like, I love it as a Julia Roberts movie, but I would never say like, oh, My Best Friend's Wedding is one of my favorite movies.
Gotcha. Me either.
Well, you have spent 30 hours watching this movie.
At least.
That's disheartening.
Oh, I have it on VHS, DVD, and I own it on iTunes.
The trifecta.
So last night, because it wasn't free to stream, there were a couple options. I could rent it for $3.99 or buy it for $4.99, and I just rented it. Like, it just wasn't worth having.
I rented mine for $2.99. You should have gone to Voodoo.
What? Voodoo?
Yeah.
Daggone it. Well,
Yeah, I feel like you have to buy it instead of stream it. You really put a little more pressure. It's like, this better be worth
right.
digging in my wallet to watch this.
For sure.
You know?
And I made
for
the
those
right
of you who
call.
live in Nashville, I do own it. So anytime you need to rewatch it, just come on over.
I think, yeah, go watch it with Carrie. Don't come here. Taylor, do you have that poster ready now? Here we go. All right. So, Brandon, looking at this poster alone, what would you think this movie's about?
Man, you know what I think it's about?
No.
I think that it's about Julia Roberts, and she's coming in and she's saying, hey, I'm jealous of my best friend who's on top of the cake, and I'm going to steal her husband. And that's it.
Okay. That's what I told you. I thought it was.
I know.
Before I thought so. Looking at the poster, I thought that like she was Diaz's best friend, and so I thought like she was in love with her best friend's fiance. And because it showed 2 dudes over there, I thought we were going to get one of those like movies where the couple switch mid-movie and end up falling for the other person's. That's what I thought we were walking into here. Nathan.
So I, growing up in my math class in elementary school, we did these like logic games. Do you guys remember those where you had like a grid and then you'd have whatever, like 4 names of people and then what color shirt they have, and they'd give you clues, and this person's not wearing this color. This person was wearing a color that rhymes with bread. You know what I'm talking about? Like those.
Right.
So I just played that with this. And so clearly the biggest face is Julia Roberts. So she is the best friend, okay? And she's removing camera ideas. So you've got the best friend who is removing camera ideas. So you know that since she's taking her off, she's probably not best friends with her because she's removing her. That wouldn't be a good best friend thing to do, was to take her away. So she's in love with the guy who has to be the best friend. And I was trying to get a closer look. I think he even more resembles Russell from that show.
New Girl.
Yeah, I think it more resembles Russell. So the other thing was just who's this third guy? And in my mind, I thought it had to be like they were all fiance, or they were both engaged, and then they just kind of did a little salty. But I played a logic game because I was bored with the movie.
Yeah. Bradley, how about you, man?
So, and this goes for women and men, but some people, you can just tell they have distinct eyes, as we like to call them, the crazy eyes. And Julia Roberts right here, whoever she's gazing at is displaying pure, like if crazy eyes are in the dictionary, this picture could go on it. And so you just know if you see a girl or a guy, especially when it comes to romance, and you see the crazy eyes come out, you're in for a ride, good or bad. And so that's all I could think of is Julia Roberts is about to be crazy in this movie.
Okay. All right. Carrie, did you play the poster game or?
Well, I think I mean, again, I probably first saw this movie when I was like 11 or 12 years old, but I assumed like best friends that she and Cameron Diaz were going to be best friends. I mean, you very quickly find out that's not the case, but I definitely thought it was going to be like about girl best friends getting married, kind of like Bride Wars, if any of y'all seen that, but definitely very different.
No. Can I just throw this out there too? Why is that sentence a lie? That sentence is a lie. Why is it that movies posters are deceiving?
I thought the same thing because I saw that tagline on IMDb and I was like, that is not the case of the movie at all.
No, it's not at all. Was it Ghost where it was also a lie, Mikey?
Yeah, for sure.
You should read that out loud for the people who aren't watching.
That's a good idea. It says Julianne fell in love with her best friend the day he decided to marry someone else. But it wasn't the day he decided to. It's the day she found out that he was going to marry someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I thought, I thought you meant she had been in love with him the whole time, which was not true by any stretch of the imagination. But no, I see what you're saying now. Okay. Yeah, I'll get behind that. Yeah, that is weird. Freaking liars. All right, let's jump into it. Let's get into this thing. Taylor, read us that first paragraph.
Right. First paragraph.
And he's not ready for that either.
So, 3 weeks before her 28th birthday, New York City food critic Julianne Jules Potter receives a call from her lifelong friend Michael O'Neill, a Chicago sports writer. Years ago, the two agreed that if unmarried by 28, they would marry each other. Michael tells her that in 4 days, he will marry Kimmy Wallace, a college student whose father owns the Chicago White Sox. Realizing she is in love with Michael, Jules resolves to sabotage his wedding. Arriving in Chicago, she reunites with Michael and meets Kimmy, who asks her to be her maid of honor. Jules schemes to break up the couple, but her attempt to humiliate Kimmy at a karaoke bar backfires. She manipulates Kimmy into asking her father to offer Michael a job, which Jules knows will anger Michael. But
Wait, stop.
as well.
Hold on.
That's paragraph 1?
Covered a lot of ground.
Paragraph 1, like 4 sentences.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well,
wait, before we even get there, can we talk about the opening scene?
Yeah, the bridal Hercules muses. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I thought it was a horror movie.
I mean,
I thought it was a horror movie.
I really thought I picked the wrong movie. Brandon loved it, I'm sure. Brandon?
What I liked about it is that it was simple. I could remember the words. It was
What were the words?
Hey, somebody else talk real quick.
So it reminded me, whenever I was in college, I stayed a semester in Lexington rather than going and working or whatever. And so I was staying in Lexington, and there was a point when it's like the week before Rush Week where is that right? Were you a sorority, Carrie? Okay, well, it's like the week before they prepare for the girls to come and rush or whatever. So it was like prep week. I don't know what you call it. But anyway, I remember me and my friend, we were hanging out. One of our really good friends was on the board or whatever, some sorority. And she was like, hey, do you want to come over to the sorority house? You'd be the first guys ever in this house, or first guys in this house of this year. And we were like, heck yeah, that'd be awesome. And we get there and they do like their opening, like their like welcome thing. And it was the most scary thing that I've ever seen. There were so many, like they were so smiley and so screamy. I was like, people like this? Like people will sign up for your sorority because you do this? And they do. Apparently they do. But it was wild.
So this is how the song goes.
Oh, we're back.
Wishing and hoping and wishing and hoping over and over and over again. And I'll be honest, it was terrifying.
Yeah, it was.
It didn't go on for just like one verse or one little thing. It went on for like 3.5 minutes.
It was like a real song.
So I was reading about this last night. It was supposed to be like this really feminist like stand, and shows like this woman taking things into her own hands as she's getting married. And y'all, I've seen this movie a lot. I have never taken that from that opening sequence.
Yeah. I thought we were about to watch a musical. I thought this was a musical. I was sure of it at that point.
It really didn't fit the movie in any way, shape, or form.
No.
There are a lot of sing-alongs in this movie.
There are.
Which I love.
They're so fun.
All right, so let's jump right into the beginning of that movie. It's a busy restaurant. She's a food critic. Anybody? Is there anything we need to talk about that?
Okay, if someone served you food and they said this food is inventive and confident, would you think that that's a good thing?
I wouldn't have thought they'd eat the food.
Yeah, no. Inventive and confident would be like, well, they're trying something new here, and they're awful confident in what they're making. That doesn't mean it's good.
They were like excited about that, but I didn't feel like it was didn't feel like it was good feedback.
Not at all. Not at all.
I felt like they really undersold this food critic deal, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's it.
I was excited that she was a food critic, and then she only references it at the very end in a really bad analogy, I felt like.
Oh, I love that analogy.
We'll get to that. But I was interested to hear about this food critic and how that would play, and it didn't play at all, actually.
Okay, so let's talk about one of the things I thought was going to be weird, but it turned out, I mean, I was wrong in this one instance, so it doesn't happen a lot. But they were sitting at the table. He calls. She's listening to her answering machine. And then she's explaining to the other dude about what's going on, her friend George. And it says their ages. And I thought, this is the biggest crock I've ever seen in my life. I'm supposed to believe she's 28 and Cameron Diaz is 20 years old. But when this movie came out, she was like 30 and Cameron Diaz was 24. So I did not think, I thought that was not the case at all. They get a point on that one. They didn't go too far out of reach, but I thought that was going to be one of those ridiculous plot things that we were just supposed to buy into.
So did any of y'all ever make a deal with someone, like if we're not married by the time we're 30?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know that I did.
She wanted 30 and I pushed for 40.
My man.
Oh, I hope she listens.
You'll never know.
Fortunately, the ship has sailed for you.
You did?
I had that deal with a guy, but he married a girl who's a soap opera star now. Wow. So,
Brandon, did you ever make
his
that
loss?
Carrie, no one wanted to make that deal with me. Are you kidding?
So she's sitting at the table. She's explaining the friendship between her and Michael to George. This George guy, to me, was the funniest part of the movie. Every time he talked, I liked this dude.
He's great.
So if there was one bright spot in this movie, it was whenever he would mock her. But she goes back. She calls the guy. I think she thinks that they're going to live up to their deal, and that's when he tells her, hey, I'm engaged. You got to get here now. We're getting married this weekend. And I'm trying to remember what all Taylor said has happened, how far we're going. I think we went pretty far.
We go to the karaoke bar. So they go to the karaoke.
Oh, so she meets Cameron. So I thought it was amazing how trustworthy Cameron Diaz was when she met Julia Roberts. Like she saw her, she's like, be my best friend and my best woman or maid of honor.
She was not trustworthy at all. Friends close, enemies closer.
Well,
I mean, the elevator scene kind of showed that she didn't trust her that much, right?
Well, that's not how I interpret it.
To me, it was like,
everybody's wrong and I'm right.
It was something about like, you're on a pedestal and I'm in his arms or something, to that effect.
Yeah, you're on a pedestal, but I'm in his arms. Yeah, that's it.
And to me, that was like, I'm trying to, like, I feel like I can't completely get this guy because which was the beginning of why I hated this movie. Like, Bradley, you've got something to say. I'm going to let you go, man. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the dynamic from the word go was really weird because typically in a movie like this, either the fiance is super unlikable and you're rooting against her from the start, or there's but it was weird for most of the movie, the way that like Mike and Julie act, and then Mike and Kim, and just the way that Kim is like, you're my best friend. I'm your best friend. And I just couldn't get behind it. I was weirded out by how much fucking Mike did with Julie, and Kim would just there and
the whole movie was
a nod, and it was a weird dynamic that I think worked in its favor for a lot of the point where I kind of saw a little bit, but anyway, this beginning, I was like, what is happening? This is toxic. So anyway,
Toxic.
For sure. It was flirt. Like anytime they're in the same screen, it's this flirty tension. Like, and it's thick. It's super thick. And then Diaz just sits there and watches it. Like
she just like smiles and nods. It's really weird.
So and you don't like Carrie because you like the movie. That's not weird.
I mean, okay, I do think it's weird, but I think there's this like naivety in Cameron Diaz. Like, she's only 20 years old. And
That's
so
right.
I think she's looking at it. I bet he's like, she's like my sister. Like, we're siblings. Like, we basically grew up together from the time we were in college. And so I think too, she's like this young, impressionable girl who wants so badly to be with this guy that she's fallen head over heels in love with. She almost wants to be blind. Like, she doesn't want to see anything wrong because she wants everything to work out perfectly.
Yeah.
Right.
Her dreams are coming true. And so she's not going to rock the boat in any way.
So what are we supposed to think about Julia Roberts watching this movie? Because I'm just trying to make sure that I don't think I ever got there wherever.
I think you're supposed to like her.
Okay. Good. Because it did.
We're off to a good start.
Like the fact that even like she said, like when the guy was in the restaurant with her, George, and he's like, you know, maybe he's wanting to propose to you because of your deal. She was so turned off by that idea until she couldn't have him anymore. And then it was like game on. And that's why it was just, I was frustrated from the green light. Like, so I'm glad that we weren't supposed to be team.
I'm going to add a statement about Julia Roberts. She has always looked like a weasel or ferret to me. And I Googled an animal, and that's what it looked like. And that's not to say I don't respect Julia Roberts. She's great in Erin Brockovich, but very weaselly in this one.
Do you respect weasels and ferrets?
Yeah, sure. They have their place.
Oh, there you go.
It's all in her nose. If you look at her proboscis and the flaps of her nose, that's where I see the weasel.
Look at her what?
Their proboscis.
What the fuck is
This is a children are watching this podcast, man. You're just throwing out proboscis like it's
read. There's a book.
I'm kidding. I'm just glad to use that word. Honestly, that was amazing.
Okay, so I think with Cameron though, like since we've made it to the elevator scene,
yes,
we can kind of talk about that. So I think she's almost been like gaining her courage, like sitting back, like let me observe, see what's going on. And I think by the time she gets to the elevator, she's like, you know what? I'm not scared of her. Like I'm here to fight, and like this is my man, and I'm going for him. And so I don't know. I just really like her spunk, and I'm a fan.
See, I guess I just never caught any of that. Like, I do see what you're saying. Like, she was ready to fight, but at the same time, I just felt like she cowered a lot. Like, all right, this is happening. I'm just here for it.
I think she was either.
Go ahead, Bradley. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say she's really passionate. You know, like when she hit the emergency stop on the elevator. Once again, I thought this girl's kind of crazy, and desperation, I think, is the right word for it, because she's like, I just really want you to like me, but you're also this unreachable person that I'm trying to, and it just, once again, like the crazy, like she's, as we go, trying to figure out how to figure out this dynamic in a very like 100 miles an hour way. It's either 100 or nothing, you know what I mean? And it just, once again.
Speaking of 100 miles an hour, that woman drives like a wild child.
Oh, Lord.
That's a good.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Like, what even was the point of that? I thought maybe they'd come back to that. Maybe they'd say like, it was just she just was driving like a bat out of Hades.
So, at what point? Because I feel like I know, and Carrie, you said you know it. I feel like she had informed Julia about karaoke bars before Julia made her sing at the karaoke.
It's in the elevator when she's talking about all the things about Michael that she wants to change or that, you know, she doesn't like. And she says he loves karaoke bars.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. I knew there was something, which leads us to the bar where Julia sneaks in there after she's heard that Cameron Diaz hates karaoke bars. And so she plays it off like, oh, I didn't know, I promise. And then Michael's trying to get Cameron Diaz to sing. And Julia's like, no, don't make her. Hey, she's going to sing. That whole thing made me almost as uncomfortable as Brandon's neck exercises over there right now. If you're watching the video, like it was just so uncomfortable to watch that scene for me. Like, and I'll probably talk more on this in my final thoughts, but like, I don't know if that was supposed to be like a funny scene or what, but it made me cringe. Like,
so I think a lot of what, and Carrie, I'm starting to like not hate it as much as I did because I'm starting to understand like the way that the movie portrayed Cameron Diaz. I thought it was going to have a different ending. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a different movie than what it was, which made me hate it along the way so much. And at the end, I think I had a conversation with Bradley today. Like, I just appreciate that the movie went the way that it went, because in this movie, or same scenario in another movie, she's a really good singer, but she bombs, or she's, whatever. And the fact that she bombed it, but the crowd and her fiance found it endearing. I did like that. I appreciated that a lot, because it kind of, right from the get-go, like I wrote down, Julianne is a saboteur, which then they talk about her sabotaging, and she's ruthless. And I thought of Mikey when I wrote that. Like and then she calls herself ruthless. It was unbelievable how she like portrayed that way. And it made me really not like and really not want Julianne to succeed in breaking off the wedding.
I've never not wanted to be called ruthless more in my life than when you just compared me to Julia Roberts. So just want that to be out there for the listeners' ear. Don't ever do that again. Regina George, fine. But Julia Roberts, no scenario ever, unless maybe, no scenario.
Well, Julia describes her in the movie when she's talking to George. She says she's annoyingly perfect, and there's nothing annoying about her perfection. And that's what's annoying about it. And so I think for Cameron, it's like, in any other movie, she would have gotten up there and actually been this amazing singer and blows the crowd away. But she's embarrassed to do karaoke because she really isn't great at it.
Sucks.
She's so bad. I wasn't sure if we could use sucks on here, but she sucks at it. And so she is terrible, but like people fall in love with the fact that she just owns it. And so I think that like, I love Julia, but Julia's not the hero in this movie by any stretch. Like, which I really love.
Again, which I think now, like the further I get removed from my watching it, the more respect I have for it, because she is like the poster child, literally. Like you would think, why wouldn't you think otherwise? That she's going to be the one who wins him over. And the whole time, everybody's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like, no matter how much you love Julia Roberts, I don't think anybody was wanting her to succeed in that.
Right.
I would say that I love that part. It was super charming. And you see a theme. The harder Jules tries, the more her plans are foiled to a certain degree.
Yeah.
There's lots.
I'm going to interject just on the one little side note, just because I love Nashville. And I felt like this movie gave Nashville a bad rap in the way that Cameron Diaz, what's her name? What's her name?
Oh,
Kimmy.
Yeah,
Kimmy. The way Kimmy talked about girls from Nashville. I wasn't a big fan of that. Carrie, I wanted to give you a chance to defend it. Correct me if I'm wrong. She said, I guess it's her
cousins, her twin cousins.
Okay, so it's her mom's sister has daughters. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
okay, whatever.
Something like that.
Whatever. Cousins in Nashville, which she thinks Nashville's French for sluts. Did I get that right? Is that what? I love Nashville. Repping the Tennessee here. I just was making sure that I heard that right. Clearly in 97, Nashville wasn't what it is in 2020. So.
Well, it's also really clear that like these cousins don't love her, because when she bursts out of the elevator, one of the cousins says, "My God, it's the bride and the woman she'll never measure up to." And if that's what your bridesmaid is saying about you the day before your wedding, like these just aren't great people.
That's true. Yeah.
She didn't have good friends, honestly, because, she had to choose Julia Roberts to be her best woman, and she'd known her for like 5 minutes.
We haven't even talked about Russell yet. Like, we haven't even mentioned Russell. The fact that, I don't know. I've talked about this before with a lot of people. Like, when you, at a certain point in an engagement or in marriage, like, the friends that you were with the opposite sex, it's not that way anymore. And I was really uncomfortable with how close he was also to like how much he was playing the closeness to Julia Roberts. It made me a little uncomfortable.
Oh,
too.
it made me a lot of uncomfortable. It was the biggest just the tension there the whole time was ridiculous.
One thing though that I do think is important to remember is they haven't talked in months and months and months leading up to this. And so I feel like there's some like this burst of energy, like, oh, this is my great friend from college. We were so close for years. We haven't seen each other. Let's fit. Like, I think he saw it as like, this is my last chance to hang out with you before I get married. And like, this is going to end. And so I totally think his behavior was inappropriate. But I also think it was like, in his mind, I think he's like, this is awesome. I get one last chance, like hang out with my best friend, then I'm going to marry Kimmy and this comes to an end. But that's obviously not how Julianne took it. Well,
so to answer me this, does it not seem like, or did the movie portray that relationship, that triangle, to be more like he's trying to, like, how would you answer this? Is he trying to win Kimmy over to Julianne, or is he trying to win Julianne over to Kimmy? Because I think it should have been one way, and I don't think it was portrayed that way at all.
Yeah, I think he's trying to win Julianne to Kimmy.
I didn't even think about
which he's not marrying her. You know, it's such an interesting dynamic, which I wasn't a big fan.
Okay, but also keep in mind, there's no mom in the picture for him, like no sisters. So I think this is like the female presence in his life. This is like this other woman. Like he needs that female approval, and twisted as it was, I think this is how he was trying to earn it.
I'll give it a pass to an extent, but as we soon find out, that is not exactly how all this plays out anyway. But before we get into that, I think we've rambled for about 30 minutes. So.
Which is incredible because it was one paragraph that covered like 48 minutes of the movie.
It was a lot. Let's see what's going on at the coffee house this week, and we'll be right back.
Hello, Talk to Remember friends. It's me, Haley. I've been on some podcast episodes before. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. It's okay. But what you probably do remember is the coffee house. We're the sponsors of this podcast. And something that we wanted to let you know, it's super exciting. We're reopening Monday, May 4th. Here's a little information about that. So we will be open to in-dining, limited capacity, but we will also be offering curbside. So just give us a call at the coffee house and tell us you want it curbside, and we'll bring it to you. Look out for some themed drinks that we're going to be doing with the guys from Talk to Remember. Follow us at the Coffee House Franklin on Instagram. Our address is 144 2nd Avenue North. If you get confused, there's a little construction going on. See the construction? You're at the coffee house. That's the coffee house in downtown Franklin.
And we're back. All right, Taylor, not yet. Before you jump into that other paragraph, we did forget to talk about the job offer situation. And that was like Jules knew that Michael loved his job, but she also knew, I don't even know if we've really touched on this. So it's Kimmy. She comes from a rich family, and I think, are they like part owner of the Sox? Is that what
owns
it is?
The Sox? Yeah,
he owns the Sox.
There was never any mention of any other owners.
Yeah. Okay. So he by himself owns the Sox, and Michael, he does like small level writing for baseball teams, I think. And so, but he loves it. And so Julia knows that, and knows that he would hate to leave it. So she pressures Kimmy to get her dad to offer him a job, again, trying to sabotage this relationship. Just another way that Julia Roberts is the devil.
But it backfires because at dinner,
not completely.
No, it does. It does. Because at dinner, he's like, he gets pissed. Like she succeeds in one element, but then she, Kimmy she's like, wait, no. She breaks down. She's like, no, like basically, I just want you. Like I don't care if you do the job or not. I thought that you would want that or whatever. I don't care. I just want to be with you, whether it's with my dad or whatever you're doing. That's why I said it backfires, because ultimately it kind of shows her like. I think it looks worse on Jules than it does on Kimmy.
Nate, it's one of those moments where true love conquers all, and I love it.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Thank you.
I still don't know that I would call this true love, but love-ish conquered all in this moment, I suppose. So now, Taylor, does anybody have anything else to add to the? Okay, all right, Taylor, take us along.
So frustrated, Jules begs her friend George to help, and he flies to Chicago. On George's advice, Jules prepares to confess her feelings to Michael, but instead tells him that she is engaged to George, hoping to make Michael jealous. George, who is gay, plays along but embarrasses Jules at lunch with the wedding party, singing "I Say a Little Prayer" as the whole restaurant joins in. George flies home, and Jules tells Michael that her relationship with George is over. Michael admits to feeling jealous and gives her the chance to confess her own feelings, but she lets the moment pass, and they share a dance as Michael sings "The Way You Look Tonight."
A lot there too. So yeah, somebody jump us in there.
So I love that song, and in fact, there's a good version by Diana King. It says "I Say a Little Prayer" reggae remix. So check it out, Spotify.
Okay, this is one of my favorite rom-com scenes, like in all the romantic comedy movies. Like that "I Say a Little Prayer for You" scene is so much fun. Like I love it.
George steals the show. George is my favorite. Like,
okay, do y'all know in the original script he had like 2 lines? Like he was only going to be in the very beginning with her, and then that was it. And then he was just so fun that they like pushed for him to have more and more, and he literally steals everything.
But he doesn't really show, like he's not really in anything else, is he?
He comes to this middle.
No, I'm talking about other movies.
Prince Charming in Shrek 2. I caught that right away.
Where he co-stars with Cameron Diaz in that. There are a couple in that movie.
It all comes full circle.
They did switch.
But still, I mean, he was easily, well, I shouldn't say easily. Julia Roberts did a good job, but like as far as male, like he was the best actor.
Oh, for sure.
That was it. That was it. Like that.
And I love it because even as he's telling his friend, and that's what he's there for, even though her motives are from Satan himself, he's there for his friend, and he's telling her, hey, you need to tell him how you feel. But at the same time, he always lets her know, but you wouldn't feel this way if he wasn't marrying someone. Like he's telling her just to do it so it's done. And that's what I liked about George. I don't think he was team Julia, even though he never agreed with her motives. So,
I mean, he asked her, he's like, do you really love him, or is this just about winning? And I think he never believed her when she said, I really love him. Like he saw straight through her. And I think it's so interesting, like that juxtaposition. Like he truly was had become her best friend. Like she's still caught up on Michael and like the history there. But George is the one that like knows her for who she is as an adult, and he's like trying to guide her into adulthood.
Yeah,
I couldn't help but notice that you used the word juxtaposition. Taylor, do you mind defining that for Mikey? Because I know he's trying to figure out what that meant.
Yeah, look at him, look it up there. He doesn't know either. If he didn't know.
Juxtaposition.
I thought you wanted a dictionary.
It's got 5 syllables, and Carrie already used it in a sentence for us.
Do you want? Here's the Oxford. Whatever
definition.
Yep, the fact of 2 things being seen or placed close together with contrasting effect.
Boo, thanks.
Kind of like irony.
What's that now?
So I guess it's kind of a little bit like irony, but maybe a little bit more intention.
You having him explain that for you?
Irony has way less syllables.
I said for Mikey. What do you mean? Why would I? I knew you didn't know what it meant. But yes, I do think one of my favorite things about that whole scene was the name of did y'all catch the name of the place?
No.
Bury the Cudas. like very good. Right. I thought that was pretty awesome. And I thought that whole scene was really good. I think what I'm really wrestling with now as we kind of talk about this movie was the reason why I didn't like it so much was because I thought that it was going to end a certain way. And I was really uncomfortable with that more than I could even enjoy the movie. Like I was just so uncomfortable with the way that I thought this was shaken out, which is interesting because spoiler alert, it doesn't end up that way.
Right. Even this restaurant scene where they're singing though, like it was a peppy scene. Like you couldn't help but smile watching it, but it just seemed so, I think what I struggled with this movie, because Carrie, you said that this is one of your favorite scenes in like a rom-com. I don't know that I ever knew what this movie was supposed to be. Like, because I mean, George was funny and these little sing-alongs were funny. But then other than that, I didn't find it funny. I just found it kind of cruel and mean, but it wasn't serious enough to be a drama. Like, I just didn't know what I was watching. And I think I struggled in that sense too.
Mikey, I had the same problem with Disturbia. Is it a comedy? Is it a love story? Is it a horror? Turned out it was all three. So sometimes you can juggle multiple wheelbarrows.
I didn't give it the Disturbia effect. So you're right. I should have based it on LaBeouf.
I love LaBeouf. And Him in Holes is great and the greatest game ever played.
Bradley, you have anything?
Up to R. I think the bridge, the ferry, was one of my favorite scenes, which sounds really weird, but I did not love that. He's like, can we get some alone time together? But I do think that was at peak, like the tension between them was realized. And I do think it was a really good, like I was feeling when they went under the bridge, there's like moment here. And then when they like, and it's packed, it's gone. Like that. And then they start to dance with like their 30 seconds of just then he began to realize, which so dumb.
Yeah.
And I think it's so stupid, but like, okay, they had their opportunity to like get together. And that's when my mind started to shift. They're going to end up together in the end too. This might not end the way I think. I think that was their peak. And now Mike is like, that's needed to stat. And now I'm all in on Kimmy from here on forward. Acted, the tension built really well. I don't recommend being a fiance to someone singing and whisper in someone else's ear the song "The Way You Look Tonight." Never a good move. Never a good move.
No.
Besides all that, with that caveat, I thought it was a great scene.
So a couple things there, like I love like right before that when she takes George to the airport and he says like, or she says, George, what's he going to do? And she says, he's going to choose Kim. And you'll stand beside him at the wedding. You'll kiss him goodbye and go home. And that's what you came here to do. So do it.
George.
And so I think there's like this beauty, like that scene is such a beautiful goodbye. And I think she spins into the crazy desperation very quickly after that. But I think that there's like this, you know how like sometimes like you break up with someone and then you're like, yeah, totally what I needed to do. That was the best thing. And then like a few days later, you're like, oh crap, never mind. Maybe I changed my mind. Like, I feel like that's what we see there. But yeah, Taylor, like that hand raise. But okay, so fun fact about this scene, the bridge scene, when they were filming it, Julia's like a huge star at this time. So they had to film it over and over again because people kept yelling like, Julia Roberts, Julia Roberts. And Dermot said it was terrible because like no one recognized him. And then finally someone yells his name. They're like, Dermot Mulroney. And he looks up and it's a guy he went to college with. And he was like, hi, John.
That's awesome.
That is great. That's one of my favorite scenes now.
That's awesome.
So yeah, because you're right. That whole bridge scene, like that's a lot. I think Taylor read about it. I'm not sure if we touched on it, but like after the airport, when she gets back in the car with him and he admits, hey, I was kind of jealous there. That's not even kind of like I was
crazy jealous.
I just couldn't, even at that point, like I was like, well, Diaz is too good for this job. Like, this guy doesn't know what he wants. Like, I couldn't buy into any of it because I didn't like anybody. Except George, who left. So that part really infuriated me. And then when they got on that boat and like you said, they're dancing and he's singing in her ear. I don't know that I've ever been more angry watching a movie than I was during that scene. It was, I just struggled from about the middle on with this movie the whole way because I felt like I didn't know what the point was. Like I just couldn't.
Yeah. Can I say something? Did you guys get confused? Like, because they said it was a 4-day thing. At this point, I think like a week's passed. Like, I don't know. I couldn't keep track of time very well because there's so many random events.
Well, George flies there and back like 3 times. It's like, how do you do that? How do you do that in 4 days?
It's crazy.
Yeah, that was hard to keep track of. That. Yeah, I was with you on that.
All right. Well, I think we've covered that. Taylor, take us on.
So the day before the wedding, at Kimmy's father's office, Jewel uses his email account to forge a message from him to Michael's boss, asking that Michael be fired to allow Kimmy's father to hire him at Kimmy's insistence. She saves the message rather than send it, but later realizes that Kimmy's father has unknowingly sent the email. Jules lies to enlist Michael's help, but they find the office locked. Returning to Jules' hotel, Michael receives a message from his boss notifying him of the email. Furious, he calls Kimmy, calling off the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's the worst.
This is a really good tie-in to All the Boys I Loved Before that y'all recently talked about. Because, it's like you write the letter, you get it ready, and you're like, I'm just not ready yet. And then sometimes it gets sent anyway.
But she did that on someone else's computer. It wasn't like she did it on her own computer, which I think makes a difference. This is just low. I was so and Mikey, I think we need to realize how furious we are in this moment, and then we need to compare that with how we felt at the end. Now, I will give you this: what's the point of the movie? Like, I think that's a valid question, but I think there is an appreciation that we have to give on. I think all of us thought this movie was going to end differently than it did, right? So we'll come back to that later. I was just so incredibly. I was so uncomfortable with that. Also, there's no way that email actually gets sent because she types out like the guy's name plus his description and what city he lives in, and that is not an email address. Just wanted to clarify that plot hole. You can't just put Mikey Blagg in insurance, Nashville, Tennessee. Boom, you'll get the email. It doesn't work like that.
This was a different time. This is pre 9/11. Man.
It was pre 9/11, which was interesting. Made the airport scenes pretty interesting.
Look, we all make mistakes. She just had a moment of weakness.
She had moments of weakness.
And you know what? She's a weasel at heart, and she can't help it. So
I think she's a weasel at face.
Well, weasel at nose, alas.
But here's what I do love about this.
Girl.
As terrible as she is, he loses the job. Like, all of those things are so horrible. He doesn't want her to comfort him. He wants to be alone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't go to her for comfort. And so I think this is where we see the breaking point for him. Like, Julianne's not the one anymore that he wants. Like, even though he thinks things are over with him and Kimmy, he still doesn't go to her for solace. Like, I think in most movies, this is where we would see them sleep together.
Right.
Or eat sandwiches or say anything. And so I really there's like a really deep division there.
But only to an extent. Because he didn't want her comfort right there in that moment. But then he says, maybe when we can go take a trip now. Like, we can do, like, he still wants to, like, he's running to her as soon as it's over. So I get what you're saying in this moment where he could have completely blew it.
Now, Carrie, I'm going to jump in because I do see this kind of caterpillar to a butterfly moment in this love story. Here's the thing. Talk is cheap. He said a lot of things about him wanting to hang out with Jules. But what does he do? He doesn't call it off. He just keeps it going. And when you're in love, you milk that cow until it's dry. Let's keep that off the podcast.
He tried to.
Well, you do that every week, and we never take anything out.
He did.
Oh, this is the worst.
I think but he did try. He tried to call it off. But remember, Kimmy was like, "You can't do this." Like, they were having the brunch the next morning, and so. She was like, you can't do this right now. That was so I think he wasn't successful in calling it off.
And then in the hallway while he's freaking out on the phone.
Oh, yes.
She gets the bellman, Paul Giamatti, to
what a cameo, man.
Like,
I love it.
She gets him to break the law too. Like, hey, smoke in this hotel. Like, she's just not good for anyone.
Look, one cigarette's never killed anybody. And Paul Giamatti, he's a clean boy. He picked it up after.
I don't even know what that means.
Henry, no.
No, is this the point when? Yeah. So he opens the door, she falls back, and she has put the ring on her finger and like can't get off. Right. And then how does he get the ring off, Brandon? Do you remember how he got the ring off?
Well, golly, what he takes his mouth and he puts it over her finger and slurps it off. She's like, and then the ring come off.
Like Lady in the Tramp, like it's a piece of spaghetti.
I mean, basically,
he could have used butter. No need, Dermot Mulroney or whatever his name is.
Yeah, no, I at that point, this is where I'm still at this point. Like I know you, Bradley. You said that's the peak, and I think you're right. I don't disagree with you, but this is like peak discomfort for me. I was like, oh God. Like we talked about, this is the point when they could have made sandwiches together, and they didn't. This did not help that cause so much.
I think we've covered this. Let's move on to the day of.
Day of.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
The next morning, Jules discovers that neither Michael nor Kimmy have told anyone else that the wedding is off. She tries to manipulate the couple into breaking up for good, but Michael and Kimmy decide to get married after all. Jules finally confesses her love for Michael and kisses him. Kimmy witnesses this and drives away, pursued by Michael, who was followed by Jules in a caterer's truck. Jules calls George, who assures her that Michael loves Kimmy. Finding Michael at Chicago Union Station, Jules confesses to everything. He forgives her, and they split up to look for Kimmy.
All right, so they show up day of, and Michael is not ready to call it off. He sends Julia to talk to Kimmy. She's not ready to call it off, and she plays middleman for a few minutes. And this is where your food thing comes in, Nate. So I know you had some stuff to say about that, so I'll just throw it over to you there.
Well, I don't want to mess up the analogy. I'd rather Carrie start with the analogy, and I can share my thoughts if that's okay.
All right. Yeah.
So she's a food critic, and so she is basically saying that Kimmy is creme brulee, and she is comparing herself to Jell-O. She's like, creme brulee can never be Jell-O. You're never going to be Jell-O. And it's like this, basically like, it's like basically when Kimmy said, like, you'll be the one on the pedestal and I'll be the one on his arms. Mm-hmm. She's trying to switch that. And like, because creme brulee would be the pedestal food and Jell-O would be in his arms. And she's like, no. Like, you're too good for him. You're over here. He's just down. He's just Jell-O, which I hate Jell-O. Like, I'm team creme brulee all the way. But Nathan, take it away.
I just think that, like, I mean, as a food critic, if you go to creme brulee, like that's your mecca, like that's the mountaintop experience, creme brulee.
Preach, hallelujah!
What would be the mountaintop?
Look. Brandon, give me something good.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts about this. One, creme brulee and Jell-O to me are both in the gelatin category, basically the same thing. So, food critic, you should know that. Watch the Food Network. The mecca would have to be it'd be a skillet chocolate cookie with a scoop of ice cream drizzled with caramel, chocolate, whipped cream droplets all around with a massive on top of the cookie, and I'd make it a double chocolate cookie. And then the lowest end of all desserts is phlegm or flan.
Phlegm?
Flan. It's flan to me.
Third time's a charm.
Oh, that or rice pudding, because rice pudding is just, it's really just a side.
Yeah. Oh. When I said the whole, I wrote down, I forgot. I thought she was calling. I misunderstood. Like I remember now correctly, but when I looked back at my notes and I saw the analogy, I was thinking she was making Cameron Diaz out to be Jell-O. That's where I had a lot of frustration whenever I said that earlier in the podcast. But you're right. She was like almost bringing Michael down when she was saying he's more like Jell-O, you're creme brulee. He was kind of pumping her up.
And she's not wrong. They're both, her and Michael are Jell-O, and Diaz is creme brulee. So I just want to point that out.
Mike, do you like creme brulee?
No.
Okay, y'all, like, as a young teenager, like, my mom would use this analogy with me. Like, because she knows how much I love this movie, and she's like, Carrie, like, you're not Jell-O. Like,
that's good.
You know? So in the future, if you're having a bad day, just remember, like, you're creme brulee. You're not Jell-O.
That's good. That's good.
I like that. That's one good thing to take away, I guess.
Yeah. So the what is this? The recap said that Michael and Kimmy decided to get married after all, but that's kind of it wasn't at this point, right? Like it was all.
Well, they like say yes,
back and forth,
and they're like supposed to meet up, but before they meet up is when Julia kisses him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Hey,
and then
oh, sorry, Nate, you go ahead.
That's all. No, I was gonna. No.
What do you got, Brandon?
Okay, I loved the part when those guys had the helium sucking it down their throats and they were serenading them. That was incredible, and I would love to do that one day. That's all.
That was a ton of balloons.
That was a lot of balloons. But that thing did not have, like, it was like they were just floating, but then there was no.
I think there was a net.
It's like a net.
Yeah.
Okay. I was very confused by that.
We both. So that was, we know what we're talking about. It was a net. There was a net. There was a net. Okay.
So
yeah, I think that's all for here.
Well, okay. So the iconic line from this movie, besides the creme brulee and Jell-O, is "Choose me, marry me, let me make you happy." And so, just as guys, what do y'all think about her like last ditch effort? Like, hey, you're about to get married to someone else in a few hours, but like, pick me. I want a chance.
I mean, I hated it.
I hated it. I absolutely hate. Brandon, how would you feel on your wedding day with
if another woman?
Yeah, last ditch effort there.
Oh, I would say no. That's it. I'm just like, no. I don't want to be led along. I don't even have anything to say. I'm so incensed. I would not like it.
Oh, okay. Well, you've always failed to deliver. Bradley, you got anything with all this?
Well, we're about to shift to the kind of the final stuff, but obviously it's gotten to this point because Mike is either like oblivious, naive, or he really loves it. He loves the attention or whatever, or he's just an idiot, all encompassing, which I think it's all the above.
Yeah.
But I will say that apparently I do think he does not kiss her back. But also when you think of somebody who has just almost like on the brink of wrecking your life, from faking an email to change everything, that's the person that you want to go fix your upcoming marriage with. Like, she sends her on a mission to like check if Kimmy's okay and say all the right things. Like,
they don't know that she wrote the email at this point.
Oh, that's right. Well, anyway, I don't know. I still think that he is just.
But she's still clearly been sabotaging. I'm with Bradley. She's clearly been sabotaging, and I don't think like the karaoke thing. He knows what's up. He knows what's happening. That this is all Juliana trying to ruin that.
But I think what Taylor read about there, it talks about the chase too. I'm pretty sure we went into the chase.
Yeah.
Where she's chasing after him, he's chasing after her. She calls George. Again, George tells her, you just need to quit. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
You're never going to win this. Did he kiss you back? No. Like,
yeah. He said, wait, so he's chasing her. You're chasing him. Who's chasing you?
Exactly.
She's like, can't get past it.
Nobody.
Yeah.
There's your answer. He tells her, you have a small but distinct opportunity to do the right thing.
Yes.
And like, George is like, you have screwed this up so much. This is like your final last chance to like save a little bit of your dignity.
And granted, she tries. So she follows him to, was it a train station? Where were they?
Train station. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's when she confesses everything. Now, in this moment, when he should just be beside himself in anger, she sent this email. She kissed him on his wedding day. I mean, he at this point, he's got to realize everything the devil has done. He says, "Oh, thanks for loving me that much." Like, that, I was so angry in that moment. Like, what kind of guy does this? I don't know.
I'm going to defend him a little bit. I don't think he needs a lot of defending, but I think there's also a huge sense of relief that it wasn't Kimmy. Like, everything that she has just confessed to, he thought was her.
For sure.
And so there's a piece of like, okay, yeah, you are the worst, but I actually get to salvage what I had with her, and we're going to be okay because everything that I thought was a problem was actually you.
And I can see that. I can see that take. To me, in that moment,
and he does call her fungus.
These two are made for each other.
The crust that feeds on the bottom-dwelling plants. Like,
yeah, I guess.
I thought that was kind of him. I have a lot worse analogy for that.
So, did we cover her meeting up with Diaz, or is that the
Almost.
next paragraph?
This is
okay, let's hit it.
So this is the last paragraph. Jules finds Kimmy in the bathroom of Comiskey Park. Amid a crowd of onlookers, Kimmy confronts Jules for interfering with Michael. Jules apologizes, assuring Kimmy that Michael truly loves her, and Jimmy and Julianne reconcile. The wedding proceeds, and at the reception, Julianne gives a heartfelt speech as Kimmy's maid of honor. Jules and Michael share their goodbyes, both finally moving on. On the phone with George, Jules is surprised to see him at the reception, and they dance together. The end.
I can't believe she was. I know we gotta cover the bathroom scene, but I cannot believe she was still the maid of honor. She was still in the wedding party.
Yeah.
They let her speak.
I know.
Isn't it a show of mercy and selflessness? Just hearts of gold all around.
Wow.
Oh, Brandon.
I love that about you.
I want to see the world through your eyes.
The bathroom scene.
No.
I love the bathroom scene where
Kimmy.
she just
Kimmy.
gets lit up. She gets lit up.
I wish she'd have got attacked by all those ladies. That would have saved this movie to me. Just a big brawl in that bathroom, and she gets the crap beat out of her. I'm back. But she didn't. Diaz hugs her too, because everyone's friends here, which made me sick to my stomach even seeing that all play out. But anybody else?
I mean, I love the crowd participation. She was recalling the story, and they were calling her names, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, not Weasel.
I can't. They're not.
They missed the mark on there.
They're not appropriate to say.
If I'd have been in that woman's bathroom, I would have said that straight.
Oh, gosh.
Honestly, I did that to be humorous on purpose, so I apologize.
Oh, it's funny.
I'm trying too hard.
Let's see. So the end after the wedding, I thought this was strange, and I wasn't there after my wedding. So maybe Mikey, you were at my wedding. You can maybe attest to this. After Claudia and I left, was there still a big dance party and hanging out, and everybody was eating and all joyous, or did the party end after that?
Till dawn, man. We went till dawn.
Now, I will say in all seriousness, if that was a Catholic wedding, that does happen. I've been to a couple, and they keep those things going till late into the night.
Even after the couple leaves?
Mm-hmm.
I think they might, yeah.
Oh, I've never seen that before. I thought that was interesting.
Back in my wilder days.
Oh.
But also, Nathan, this is the people that had a huge brunch for everyone invited to their wedding just a few hours before. So
that's true. Any chance to throw a party, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought it was very realistic, the brother's speech. Like, that dude was so awkward, but he did it, and he just wanted to talk about happiness a lot. And I thought, I can buy it. This seems real. I'm buying in.
That was like my brothers. You remember my brothers? No.
Vaguely.
That's okay.
But then she, like you said, she gives a speech, and she basically just talks about how she's a nightmare. But then even in her own way, she talks about, but, I must not be that bad because everything worked out and everybody was cried and they were so happy with things. And because out of the kindness of her heart and the good person that she is, she gave them their love song. So that was a sweet thing to do. Again, I thought even that was ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And then they leave, and they finish the movie with George, because that's the only thing you can do to try to save this thing, is to bring him back. And he shined again in everything the scene the dude was in. He was great. So that's what I got. If anybody else got anything to add to that end.
Yeah, I just think as a guy, music's powerful. I think we all would agree. And music takes us back to different places in high school and college and things like that. And so I just remember my first dance with my wife, and I would never in a million years choose a song that was special to me and another girl to then do as our first wedding song. And so in one sense, it's like the noble thing for Julia to give the song away, but at the same time, in the eyes of Mike or Mikey, like it's awful. It's weird. You don't share that. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And then George at the very end, he said, your future may not have marriage. There may not be sandwiches, but there will be dancing. And then they danced. And so George, once again, he wraps it up. He gives me a little bit of a smirk when really I was just stewing inside. So kudos to him.
Yeah.
So in the original ending of this movie, she ends up with a wedding guest. So like John Corbett shows up and they meet and they dance. And it's like happily ever after. And test audiences were furious. Like, they said they weren't ready to forgive her. They didn't feel like she should like end up with the happily ever after. And so that's when they brought George back, which I feel like redeems the movie. Like, the fact that there's still this like Bradley, like you just said, like, you might not get married. Like, there might not be any sandwiches in your future, but we can at least dance and have a good time right now.
Wow.
That's a great. I respect the mess out of that. That's a great decision. Who did you say came back? What did you say? They
so John Corbett, who I'm trying to think, he was like in Sex and the City and some other movies like that. But if you look him up, you probably recognize him. But he was like, there's going to be this wedding guest that she just hits it off with, and like kind of that's like her little happily ever after.
Gotcha. No, I like the way it ended.
Yeah.
Compared to that.
Okay. Well, I think we need to wrap this up then. So
let's do it.
Nate, why don't you take it away?
Good. I'm glad you asked me to do that. So after I've had some space, watched it last night. I've had a little bit of space. At the very least, Mike, you can appreciate what this movie made me do and the journey that it took me on, the emotions that I felt. Because I was very like for much of the movie, I was like, I thought I've had this pegged. I thought she was going to break it off, or he was going to get her to break it off, she was going to get Michael to break it off, and I thought I had this movie pegged, and it made me so mad. It really made me mad, and I was uncomfortable a lot. But the way it ended, I liked that it ended the way it did, and so I would just going to throw this out there, like knowing how frustrated and mad that we are. I think there is a amount of respect that we have to give the movie because it didn't try to it wasn't like a Nicholas Sparks hero Hail Mary that they just kind of like redeemed it with, or even Runaway Bride. Like it didn't even have that ending, which I really appreciate. I don't think I fully enjoyed the movie because I was so mad. And maybe if I did watch it a second time, which I'm not, maybe if I did, I would appreciate the movie more. But all in all, I think it was, I have a respect and appreciation for the movie for what it was. That is way better than what my initial reaction was after when the credits started rolling. So I'll say that. I've got, favorite character. I'm glad I get to go first because I feel like this is going to be echoed with everybody. George is my favorite character. I just thought he was, I forget which movie it was, but he was the best friend that she needed. Like, although she didn't listen to him and although she didn't, he didn't tell her not to go. He encouraged her to be honest with herself, honest with him, and let him make a decision. So there's a play that he makes where he's not saying, no, you got to go home. But he's like, shoot your shot. Like, do it, though. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. She's the one who blows it as far as, like, waiting so long. So he's my favorite character. As far as the comps go, this is going to be weird. It's going to be weird. I think as far as the movie, and Mike, you said it from the get-go, as far as the movie that we've seen, Runaway Bride, it's very similar. Like, just same character, Julia Roberts. She's just a mess. Just a complete mess. And in so many ways, we think she's not deserving of love. She made me feel that way in the way, at least in the movie. I don't want to be so harsh as to say ever deserve love, but the way the movie ends, this one ends, you almost have like a little bit of gratification with that. So that's my first comp. The second one is Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey. I've seen this movie twice, and I think it's the whole, she's like, Patrick Dempsey's the maid of honor, but he's a man, and but he's not gay, but it's this weird dichotomy that the relationship between the bride and the best, or the maid of honor, but he's a man. That kind of relationship is very similar. That I get a feel for this with Michael and Jules being so close. And then the third one, this one's a stretch, but it's Gone Girl, because in Gone Girl, the way that movie was just so like psychotic and like just. I couldn't believe that it was going the way that it was going down. And but I had similar thoughts to watching Gone Girl that I had with this, in the way that like just the maniacal was playing out. And I was like, how in the world is this going to be? Thankfully, it didn't quite end up in her favor, but I got this same sense anyway. A close second would have been Holiday, just because the two like the two couples in the way that it looks, but I don't think so. I would say as far as my butterfly tattoos, I'm going to give it 2.25. I would have given it a 1.5 last night. But as I have just hearing, like recalling some of the information, and I do think that the way it portrayed, like the fact that Michael still married her and he didn't kiss her back, and he was very much like he ran after her, and there was no thought about Jules behind him. I did appreciate that a lot, just from a call me old fashioned, but I think at that point, I really appreciate the honesty and the way in which it. I mean, I know they're not married until the very end, but the way that it makes marriage, holds it on a high standard, I appreciated that. So I'm going to give it a 2.25.
All right, I'm going to go next because you kind of pulled me in there and you talked about we have to look at it through this lens a little bit.
I said we should.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going to say never. And so I'm going to follow up. I am going to say, I'm going to agree. Favorite character is George. I don't know who else it could be. He was like the only one trying to be any source of reason, of right, of good in this movie. He was funny. If this was a romantic comedy, it was because that character was in it. Otherwise, I don't know what the frick this movie was. But so George is my favorite. Unsung hero, I wrote down like something that I just pulled it out of my butt because I couldn't find a hero other than George, and I didn't want to do that twice. I was going to go on this weird thing about why it was the White Sox, but that's not going to work. I thought about saying the unsung hero was Richard Gere because he skipped out on this one, and good for him. But I think after hearing Carrie talk now, the unsung hero of this movie is the test audience, because they were like, no, she cannot have a happy ending. We do not want her to get the love that she
yes.
Let's have her just dance with her buddy. And for them, like, they are all that is good and right with the theater and cinema world. So test audience is the unsung hero. Didn't even know that 10 minutes ago. Glad you threw that at me. Final thoughts. I mean, for me, I liked Steel Magnolias. And I liked Julia Roberts in it, okay, but that's because she was part of an ensemble. Other than that, she is 0 for 3 for me. I mean, it's just Julia being Julia. I don't like her. She needs to stick to being Tinkerbell or something, because she's just, these movies she doesn't do well. I hated the tension through this whole movie, even though it ended up with Michael and Diaz. I hated every bit of it. I wasn't, like I've said, I'm going to just reiterate it again. I wasn't sure what genre I was watching. I wasn't sure what the point of this was. I hated everyone being okay with her and letting her still be the maid of honor. And I hated that she gave the song. George, if it wasn't for George, I would have given a 0. And that's a God's honest truth. But I'm going to give this 1 butterfly tattoo. And also, I want to apologize to Brandon and to Nate and to Bradley, because 3 episodes ago, I gave it a 5. And since I've done that, since I opened my heart and let love in, we have watched Ghost, which was the worst thing we've ever seen. We watched Me Before You, which to me, I still don't know how to take that ending. And then this movie. And I feel like this is my fault. I feel like I've opened the gates to some sort of movie hell that I need to try to get us out of. And so my promise to you is I will never give a 5 again. I just won't do it unless we feel like it's going to have to really blow my socks off, because I'm taking this. I'm taking the brunt of this, and I just want for the rest of you on here to apologize for the mistake that I've made. And I promise you it won't happen again.
Apology appreciated, but unaccepted.
All right. Carrie, why don't you go next?
Okay, so like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. And I think the reason I love this movie so much is because it's not expected. You don't watch a lot of like romantic comedies where the lead does not get the guy at the end. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the storyline itself is realistic. But I think there's realism in the thought that sometimes like you're jealous when a really good guy friend or like your best friend starts dating someone, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to be together. And pretty much every other romantic comedy, that's what it tells you. Like, oh, you and this guy have been friends for years. Obviously, you're supposed to get married. And so I think that there's like a realism. And you know what? Sometimes your best friend picks someone else, and that's who he's really supposed to be with. And so I like that. And I think that aspect is realistic. I'm not saying like the stealing the bread truck or anything, but I really enjoy that. And I'm going to say my favorite character is Kimmy, because I typically am not a huge Cameron Diaz fan, but I think as a 20-year-old who's standing up to this girl that she's like heard about probably her entire relationship, and she comes in and she's like ready to fight for her man and fight in a train station bathroom and put her in her place and call her a big-haired food critic. Like, I'm just proud of her. So
that's good.
And I'm going to give it 4 stars. And
that's a shame because we read about tattoos, but
sorry, 4 butterfly tattoos.
Okay, all right, Bradley, I'm going to ask you to go, and we're going to say, because Brandon has kept his review of this.
I'm excited.
Close to the chest. I think we've got to finish with it.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think in just retrospect, we all just as human beings, we have a sense of an end with everything. A movie's got to end, a book's got to end, seasons have to end, but we like them ending on our terms in the ways that we can control. And one of the hardest things, I think this depicts it really well, one of the hardest things that humans have to process is something coming to an end that's out of our control, or something coming to an end in a way that we do not like. And for Julia Roberts, her safety net, her comfort of potential romance someday is coming to an end in the way that she doesn't want. It's not the ending she thought it'd have. She thought she would at least dictate that, and she might get married first or something. But I think Julia Roberts is great in the same way that Zooey Deschanel is great in 500 Days of Summer. Can I stand Zooey Deschanel in 500 Days of Summer? No, but no one's supposed to. Everyone's supposed to really dislike her. She's supposed to be really unlikable, and she does a great job at doing that. And Julia Roberts does a good job here. And so for the fact that this movie really shows, I think Carrie said it really well. There's some realistic and unrealistic things. Like, I'm sure some people, it's crossed their minds that when their safety net gets engaged to try to do something, and everything people think, this movie actually, it dives into some of those things, just the crazy of it. And so in that sense, I think it's okay. I think that it depicts those things. If you're a Julia Roberts fan, if you're a really nostalgic person and you really like nostalgia, and maybe you saw this when you were younger, I think you can like it. I don't know if, like, for me, like a first time watcher in 2020, I don't know if everyone's going to love it. The only other thing I'll say is this took me back, and this is why I'll say this. I gave it 2 butterfly tattoos, one for George, just because he did really well. But the other one is because in this movie, I remember that when I met my wife, kind of through a few lists of things, like for 3 years, we didn't date. And then I knew that, my wife's from Georgia. I was not living anywhere near Georgia. And I was sitting with a buddy, and I said, listen, I can't get Beth Jacobson out of my head, and I don't know what to do. And he said, listen, she's here for 4 more weeks, and then she's gone forever, and you won't ever have to think about her again. And I remember in that moment being like, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. If she were to go off and something to happen, I would hate myself for it. And so I pursued who is now my wife. And so that made me think that this movie really is a lesson of don't take things for granted. Don't take people for granted, because things happen. And so that's just a lot of word vomiting, but it made me think a lot for a movie that I really, really did not enjoy. I give it a 2 stars, but it did point me back to that scene, and a lot of not to do it was played out in this movie. So that's where I'm at. For more guy friendly, I would have liked to see maybe George confront Mike and say, like, for more redeeming for Michael, of like him going up to Julia and saying, listen, I've led you on. This needs to stop. I'm about to be married. If there was even at the last 15 minutes, just a path he carved that he was dictating those things, I think I would have had more respect for him in the movie. So
for sure. Is George your favorite?
George is definitely my favorite. I don't think there's another option. And for the reasons y'all said.
Brandon.
Well, first of all, I'll say, Bradley, I love that story about your wife. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, watching this movie, it is so despicably unrealistic. I mean, what guy allows his best friend who's been in love with, like, come and hang out, become the maid of honor? He does everything wrong. The time frame's all wrong. You can't fit that much into 4 days. And I mean, the ending's fine, but I don't even know if him and Cameron Diaz would actually end up together. Just realistically, it's so terrible. But alas, I don't watch these things through a realistic lens. I put on my sprinkles and unicorn glasses and I go to town. I love this movie. You know what I loved about it? I love how conniving Julia Roberts is. She's clearly terrible. And I love that throughout the movie, they allow her and Dermot to be close because they just have the tension. Like, they set it up the whole time. Is he going to go with her? Is he not? And that's the whole point. They're just building up the question. And then Cameron Diaz, a.k.a. Kimmy. Give me
some Kimmy.
But Kimmy, she's so peppy and upbeat and like positive and has a sweet innocence. I love that. Carrie, I'm not a big Cameron Diaz fan except for in Shrek. She does a great job. But I love her personality. She's great. And she's kind and she's endearing, even when she looks ridiculous doing karaoke. Like, she does an incredible job. And then, of course, you got the Joker from right field. You got old George. The end of the movie's incredible where they're on this phone call and he's like, hey, I see you drumming your fingers on the table. I see, and then you're got a dress on that's velvet. And then lo and behold, he's been there the whole time and they go dancing. It's incredible. And then also the wonderful music. Oh my goodness. Except for the first terrible song, that wonderful say a little prayer for you. Say a little prayer for you. That's the only part I love. I listened to it at least twice today on my Spotify list and I loved it. So I would watch this over and over and over. Taylor, you want to come over and hang out? We can watch it together.
Who's your favorite?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's Kimmy. I love Kimmy. She's kind of crazy, peppy, happy, positive. I loved her personality. And she was a strong woman. And I thought, even though she kind of begged Dermot to go back with her several times, but she's young. I'm a big Kimmy fan. I'm going to give this podcast, nope, not a podcast, the movie, I'm going to give it 1.275 million butterfly tattoos. And yeah.
Well, what about
back,
Brandon?
So I don't normally do this, but I actually wrote one. And I've actually been listening to this song through... I wrote like lyrics to it. Normally I just make them up on the spot. It's to an actual song that exists. And I was listening to it during all your reviews so I could get it right.
You were doing something over
But I listened to everything and I actually paused it during Bradley's section because I learn things from Bradley every session because he's so wise. And so is Nate. Nate's super wise too. And Carrie's pretty wise. Mikey, you're the best. All right, here we go. And I love Taylor. Okay, here we go. Our Jules arrived just the other day. She came to the wedding in the usual way, but there were men to steal and hearts to break. She learned to lie while on her stay, and she slid all like laughing. And she slid back and forth. We knew it, and as she stayed, she'd say, I'm gonna ruin this wedding, George. You know I'm gonna ruin this wedding. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. The little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Jules, I don't know when. I'll have ruined Diaz by then. You know I'll have a ruined Diaz by then. Woo! I've been waiting to do that all day. I've been laughing.
That is so
honestly,
good.
I didn't even really talk during the podcast. I just want to do this song. So.
Well done, Brandon.
Thank you.
Well, Taylor,
well done.
after that, And hearing everything that we've all had to say, the debrief, the comps, more guy friendly, unsung heroes, the cats in the cradle. Would you watch this movie?
So yes, the answer is yes. Which is weird. I'm very confident. Up until what Brandon had to say, because you took it a different way. I thought you were going to crap all over this movie. That was some good acting there. I'm very confident that Carrie, if you were not on this podcast, I would not want to watch this movie. But you stood in there like a quarterback and called protection for every one of these blitzes, and you didn't just pick them up. Like, I don't want to say that you that everything they said you had to throw out. I just appreciated hearing a very compelling argument about everything that they could throw at it. So I'm curious now where I would land.
Well, Taylor, I do have to say, I'm thankful to be here on this podcast, because I usually make these same compelling arguments, but I'm just in my car by myself and the podcast has already been recorded. And so I'm really glad to be able to actively participate. Y'all, to all the boys I loved before, I was yelling at y'all in my car. And so I'm just,
I liked it.
I know you did, but there were some
scrunchy, baby.
There were some rocky
Team
parts
scrunchy.
there, and so I'm just really thankful that y'all let me come on and actually, say the things out loud actively and not,
You should just film yourself listening to it.
I'll start following y'all all my thoughts.
You can have your own podcast.
We can post it on our social media. The Carrie time.
Hey, and I did follow through for my own credibility on what I watched these. I did follow through and watch To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And I was on whoever thought that the scrunchy incident wasn't that big a deal. I was on your team. I don't remember how that went.
Me and Brandon.
Look whose side Taylor's
Let's
on.
go.
Yeah.
Tells you all you need to know.
Jump on in, the water's fine.
Okay, this has been fun. Carrie, thanks so much for doing
Always
this.
a pleasure.
Thanks,
Carrie, to have you on.
I love being on here. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, this has been a talk to remember. You may not remember the movie, but we hope you remember the talk. Bye.
For romance, somehow these dudes are our only hope.
I hope you do not remember the movie, but you know the talk. Bye.